being transgender is most definitely not a mental illness, whereas having anorexia, which is an incredibly sad thing, is a mental illness, and that's the difference. So
But why?
Why?
Why is one a mental illness and not the other?
Well, what is a mental illness? A mental illness is an illness of the, I don't know what the mental health, isn't it? Your mental health is not well and it's a risk to you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It is Common Sense, right? Today we're going to be looking at a little interview where Andrew Gold had a little discussion about transgenderism, sex, gender, science, identity, mental health, and everything that, goes along with those subjects. He had this discussion with a Dr. Helen Weberly, which is apparently a, trans activist, polarizing figure. In this interview, Andrew Gold is going to point out some of the absurdities that Dr. Helen Weberly believes in. He's going to ask her to do very basic things like define definitions. I mean, you guys know what's coming. What is a woman? That is going to be coming here very shortly. He's going to have a lot of pushback on the ideas of Weberly. And I just want you guys to pay attention that Dr. Weberly is not really going to be able to define these definitions. She's going to dance around the subject. She's going to pivot a lot. And it just makes you wonder if we should really be taking in these quote-unquote doctors' intake that seriously when they can't define very simple definitions, can't answer simple questions. But with that said, I do also appreciate Dr. Helen Weberly actually doing an interview. It takes a lot of guts to step up into the ring and try to defend your ideas.
When a man can be, forgive me for asking the cliche, which everybody always asks, but a man says he is a woman. What is a woman?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? So what is a woman? What is a man? It's one of those kind of cool questions that everybody asks because it's going to trip me up. It's like, well, what is a woman? Well, it's just a woman. I'm a woman. I was in a clinic in 2015 and I had a young trans boy. So that boy was born a girl, apparently, but actually identified as a little boy. And I was learning. So I was learning as I went along. And I said to this little boy, and he was 11, and I said, what I need to know is, though, what makes you a boy? What is it that you think that makes you a boy and not a girl? And he struggled to explain it because how do you explain it? It's like, I just am, or I feel it. All those words don't count. And I was like, but I need to know because I need to understand this. And then he went, Dr. Weberly, what makes you a woman? And I'm like, well, I just know. And it's not because I look down there at, or, whatever is at top or bottom. That's not what makes me a woman. I'm just a woman.
Now, I think Weberly actually said the smartest thing in this entire discussion just now. She said, well, I don't look at the top or bottom to see if I'm a woman. I am a woman. Which, to be quite clear, we can look at the top and bottom to see if you're a woman. But it's very important, and she already gave it away. But you do not feel as a thing. You do not feel like you're a male. You do not feel like you're a female. You just are one. It's a biological reality. It's a physical observation that we can make in the world. And we can observe biologically that we are men or women. We don't feel as we are one. We just are one. And it's observable. So I think, so you can kind of tell she's dancing around the subject, and I think she really spilt the beans here and didn't realize it, but she just is a woman. But the same thing could be said about this boy that she's talking about. This boy doesn't need to feel like a boy or feel like whatever. He just is one, and it's observable, and it's a biological reality. And she's not completely done yet, but notice how she hasn't answered the question, what is a woman, yet?
And so people will say, oh, well, it's your chromosomes, it's your genitals, it's your reproductive system.
Gametes.
But that doesn't make somebody a woman. They're different. And I know that that's difficult to understand because the majority of people who have a womb as a reproductive system, if you like, identify as women. And that's what we're kind of conditioned to see and think. So it's difficult to try and unpick that, but it's true.
What it sounds like to me, and forgive me if I'm getting this wrong.
Sure.
I'm trying to work it out. It sounds like you're saying there are really lots of things that make someone a woman, lots of things that make someone a man, and these are societal to an extent. Some of it's biological, some of it's societal inventions and things like that. That's maybe the Judith Butler argument, right? And
sure.
if that's the case, would it not be easier to use different language and just say, hang on, well, this is a guy who acts stereotypically in an effeminate manner. Would that not just be clearer?
But if you ask that person, I mean, we might find that easier to explain. So, you know, we go, okay, we're settled. We won't call him a woman. We'll call him a guy that's effeminate. And that guy who's effeminate will be like, thanks for that. Actually, I'm a woman. So it's all right. So it's like, whose label are we making it for? Is it for our comfort or the comfort of the person who is gender diverse?
I guess this argument about the comfort for the person. So I see that what you were saying about it was a time when there wasn't enough information about gender issues, which are real issues that we face. Even we might disagree what they actually are and what the root cause is, but it's a real issue and it's a real struggle for the people going through those things. And you were then in a position where you were able to help, and that must have given you a fantastic feeling. And we like to help, but you're also, I'm sure, and I'm sure you implement this in your life, familiar with the concept of sometimes being cruel to be kind, for example. Right, somebody comes in and says who's anorexic, and they say I'm so skinny. You go, sorry, they say I'm so fat, and you go, no, you're not.
Can it be?
People who are, in my opinion, confused about their sex exist, absolutely. But I could identify as a table.
Well, a table's not an identity.
Why not?
A table is an inanimate object. It's
I
not
could
an
identify as
identity.
black.
Well, you can't. Black is a colour. It's not an identity. It's a colour.
But I might have some black ancestry.
You may do, yeah, but you're not. You're white skin. So,
but sex is also not an identity. It's a
sex isn't. Sex is biological, chromosomal.
So again, I feel like we agree then. So sex is different to gender then. I mean, I would just say we don't need either words. I'm not, but if people want to say, okay, this is how this person feels, and we're going to start using the word gender for that, because my understanding was we started using the word gender because people felt a bit funny about saying the word sex. They don't like saying that, so they use gender, so it's just a synonym for sex. Yeah. But okay, I'm willing to sort of go, let's use gender as someone's personality or their identity. That's how it's a totally different thing. Yeah. Why are we then changing their physical anatomy, which is their sex? Why are we performing operations that are long-lasting and potentially very damaging?
And here, Andrew Gold is, applying some very basic logic to see if it's faulty or not. And of course, he says that he's a table. And well, why is he not a table? Well, because a table is an inanimate object. Well, I'm black. Why am I not black? Well, black is a color. But she seems to have just this arbitrary line drawn when someone wants to identify as a table or identify as black, as opposed to, sex. But it's just an arbitrary line just made up in her head. Where's the line at? Why can I not identify as a table, as a dog, as black, as Mexican, as Asian? Whatever these things may be, she's not explaining why you can't identify as those things. She's just asserting that you can't without providing any detail. And well, if she can't even define what a woman is, then I see no issue why I can't just identify as black and say, well, and what's a black person? Well, a black person is a person that's black, which is me. You know what I mean? It's the same stuff, because we can observe that someone isn't black and, see that doesn't line up with basic biology. The same way we can look at a man who claims to be a woman and see that it doesn't line up with basic a biological reality, and see that they're in fact not a woman but a man.
Let's go back to, you said you were going to clarify because the anorexic bit's thrown, and I think that's similar to what we're talking about.
It comes up a lot, doesn't it? The thing is, right, so in the olden days, they used to, being gay was classified as a mental illness. Having syphilis, you were put away for having syphilis. And then not a little bit after that, we realised, hang on a minute, being gay is not a mental illness. And syphilis, you shouldn't lock someone up just because they've got syphilis, So we've made mistakes in life.
Yes.
A little bit later, we classified being transgender as a mental illness. And then in 2011, we were like, no, it's not a mental illness. It is part of somebody. It's their identity. It's who they are. So being transgender is most definitely not a mental illness. Whereas having anorexia, which is an incredibly sad thing, is a mental illness. And that's the difference. So
but why?
Why
is one a mental illness and not the other?
Well, what is a mental illness? A mental illness is an illness of the, I don't know what the mental health, isn't it? Your mental health is not well and it's a risk to you.
Okay, here we just saw that Andrew gave, some pushback because Weberly just said that anorexia is a mental illness and transgenderism just isn't. And, he asked what differentiates the two, because, that's a great question. And she, she's struggling. And she asked, well, what is a mental illness? Like she doesn't even know. Now, I actually don't 100% agree with Andrew Gold and all of his takes and everything. But for one, I have the definition of mental illness here. Mental illness refers to a health condition that disrupts a person's thinking, mood, and behavior, such as anxiety, depression, bipolar, blah, blah, blah. And it talks about, common mental illnesses. And I would ask you guys, how would we determine if someone has a mental illness? All right, pop quiz. We would look at abnormalities, amongst, the people, the population, right? We'd look at abnormalities, abnormal behavior that differentiates people from the vast majority, right? Obviously, transgenders fit that scope. When you look at it through that lens, they fit that very, very finely. And we're about to listen to her more, but I'm very interested into seeing how she's able to, draw the arbitrary line and differentiate anorexia compared to transgenderism, why one's a mental illness, why the other one's not.
Example, then feeling, even if they're right to feel this way, then feeling like there is something wrong with your body when there isn't.
Well, you think there isn't.
But they think because they're mentally ill.
And no, they're not mentally ill. And I can't have that one. It's just so offensive to say that transgender people think there's something wrong with their body because they are mentally ill. It's just
I think it's offensive to say that there's something wrong with their body. What a thing to tell
it's
people.
Them.
It's either their body or their mind. Which one?
There's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with them.
Then why are we fixing it? Why are we cutting off their genitals?
Because that's what they want to do, to live their life in a happier way, to match their body with their identity.
I think even they should be saying, listen, I'm mentally ill. I want to get this changed to make me feel better.
I would really
Why is that offensive?
It's very offensive because we have declassified. We made a mistake.
Would you call an anorexic person mentally ill? I don't think that's offensive.
They do have a mental illness.
I would say to an anorexic person sitting here, I love you and support you as I would to a trans person. I think you have a mental illness right now.
Yeah, and you need help and support.
And I would say that to a trans person.
Well, I would find that very offensive.
I just want to clarify that I'm not intending to cause offence there, as I wouldn't to an anorexic person. I know you're taking it, and I appreciate that as well, but I'm just so you know that's not my intention.
Okay.
But I do think they're mentally ill.
I think that's sad.
I think it's sad. Well, they are sad.
No, affirmed they're happy.
Yeah, truthfully, I think that was one of the worst parts of this entire discussion. She quite literally just danced around it. She was not able to clearly define why one's a mental illness versus why the other one isn't. I mean, it's this very strong abnormality. You have something wrong with your brain. You're not accepting a biological reality. You want to remove your sex parts. I mean, it fits the definition of mental illness. And she's too busy being just, quite frankly, offended, on behalf of trans people, even though she's not one herself, finds very great offense to it when, first of all, she had trouble even defining mental illness itself. And like I said, it's just a completely arbitrary line.
Or a woman.
Why is it different to anorexia?
No, we've done that one.
But you haven't explained why that's different, except for, because we've decided one's a mental illness and the other one isn't.
Yeah, but it's like, well, let's go back to the trans people then. It's like, please, can you stop labelling me as mentally ill? Because I'm not mentally ill. I'm just Sally or Brian or whatever.
And if an anorexic person tells you that, what do you say?
Well, the thing is, anorexic people are mentally ill. And I'm a doctor. I've worked with anorexic people. It's a tragic, and I think, there will be people listening here who have people with anorexia in their life at the moment. It's extremely tragic.
Correct.
It is extremely life-threatening, and I don't think that we should use that as an analogy.
Look, I'm not even trying to be mean, but I think it's pretty insane that she said, anorexia is so life-threatening. Yet, I don't know if she knew this, but the trans community has the highest self-deletion rate, of all time. And this is pre and post-op, by the way. So even their surgeries that they're getting to help them, it doesn't even help them, really, because their rates are still at the same level. But with that said, how do you think Andrew Gold did versus this trans activist? Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought about this breakdown. Consider leaving a like on this video and subscribing, because we're going to be doing some more breakdowns and analysis on debates and fiery topics such as this. And I hope to see y'all in the next one. Jesus Christ is King. Repent and believe in the gospel, folks.